What is going on, guys? This is Dr. Sam Rassoul, well scripted with Dr. Sam. I want to welcome you guys back. I want to apologize first and foremost to all my listeners out there. A little bit of gap from our first to our second podcast, but we've been working on a lot of the kinks. Want to make sure we're giving you not just great content, but great listening for your listening pleasure, soothing to your ears. So
such a great voice.
I'm here, of course.
Made for radio.
I'm here, of course, with my main man, Assad. Assad, introduce yourself to our listeners if they didn't get you on the first podcast.
What? They didn't listen to that? Well, I'm Assad Shalou, and I am a self-proclaimed fitness expert, and I just would like to share my knowledge with, first of all, learn from Dr. Sam, because I know he's an encyclopedia about this stuff, and also be able to show my, anecdotal side of things that I'm not necessarily, I'm on the road to become, a PhD or an MD or whatever, but I'm still not there yet. So providing a more, layman aspect of it from what I've learned over the 10 years that I've been doing this.
I think the humility is something that's definitely in your character. Yeah. For you guys that don't follow my main man Assad here, he said self-proclaimed, but it starts with a belief, and this gentleman believed in himself, and he really put all his eggs in one basket, and he went for it, and now he is not only booking photo shoots all around the world, but he's also a world renowned personal trainer, really working with elite clientele. If you aren't following on Instagram to see some of his content, the proof's in the pudding. Assad, go ahead and share your Instagram name with us.
It's a little scandalous. It's Assad, ASSAD, Assad Shal, just that plain and simple.
Perfect, guys. And if you guys would like to follow me on Instagram, I do like to share Dr. Sam's healthy hints on the daily. 1-minute tidbits about topics that have been coming up for my patients and in the community. My username on Instagram is at Dr. Sam Miami. It's very easy, Dr. Sam, DrSamMiami. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the podcast here. For podcast number 2, I thought I'd talk about something that's really sweeping the nation, and it's something that it's brought up in my office all the time. I hear it wherever I go. And the topic of today's podcast: pain, opioids, and the plaguing epidemic in our country. And it's something that's really serious. I know as a fitness person yourself, Assad, you've dealt with pain, and you're an athlete for many years. So
pain. I mean, popping Motrin and ibuprofen was like candy, and it gets to a point where maybe it doesn't even start working as much, and
so you got to increase the dosage.
Yeah, so I guess this is a segue into like what you're about to talk about.
Absolutely. So just to get started, let's jump right into it, guys. We're going to jump in the deep end right here. First thing we want to do is talk about pain. What is pain, and how the body recognizes it? Pain is just a stimuli controlled by the nervous system. It's what your brain recognizes. If you put your hand, easy analogy, you put your hand on a hot plate, you're going to recognize that that's painful because there's a stimuli that goes from your hand, from the heat from the hot plate to your hand, and it gets sent up your nerve fibers into your brain, from your nerve to the spinal cord to the brain, and those are traveling down tracks called nociceptors. Now, biggest thing in the body, there's nerve fibers all over your body. I mean, you have trillions of nerves.
Especially in your fingertips.
And it's absolutely the more sensitive areas. But people don't know that, there are 3 different types of nerves. And I wanted to kind of touch base on that. There's sensory. That's when you know if you've touched something very soft or very brittle. There's motor, which is why if I told you to raise your hand and you did it, it's your brain telling your body to raise your hand. And then there's pain. And a very easy question, I think we talked about this before, but I want to touch base on it because it's so important in today's society. It's so important. I'm going to ask the fitness guru sitting in front of me, of course. Yeah, don't put him again. What percentage of these nerves in your body are pain nerves? Do you think it's 25%? Is it 50%? Is it 90%? Is it 10%?
I think it's pretty high. I think it might be like 60%.
That's what typically, and that's a great answer because a lot of people believe it's 50 to 60% of the nerve fibers. Surprisingly, it's only 10%.
Pain.
10%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 10% of the fibers in your body.
I get that wrong just to make it sound better,
See, that's why I like having fun. He knew the answer. He knew the answer. But pain fibers are, only comprise 10%. A great analogy I use, guys, is if you look at one single nerve, and we have trillions of them in our body, one single nerve looks like a bunch of dry spaghetti strands rubber banded together. If there were 100 of those dry spaghetti strands sitting in there, only 10 of them would be pain. If we use the color red for pain, and we use blue for motor, and we use green for sensory. So you're talking about 90% of that fiber is going to be sensory and motor involved. So a lot of times I tell patients, pain's the last thing to show up and the first thing to go away. So now we recognize pain.
Well, just to stop you real
quick.
No,
go, please.
I feel like that's pretty interesting because people probably don't even know that pain is its own, sense.
It's its own sense.
Because you think that it is more of it would be part of the sensory, neurons and like the, all those things. But
Absolutely. So, Assad, you were a football player. Have you ever, when they say you got a stinger,
right?
Let's say you banged your elbow, going down to the turf or, against someone's helmet. What's the first thing you do when you bang, let's use the elbow as an analogy. First thing you do when you bang your elbow, what do? You start
rubbing some dirt on it.
You rub some dirt on it. I say Coach says rub some dirt on it. But naturally, anybody, even without thinking about it, we're going to start. You bang your elbow against, whether it's in a football game or you're at home and you hit the cupboard, you're going to start rubbing your elbow. Main reason you do that is because we talked about something called nociceptors. There's mechanoreceptors, and I use the analogy. It's like the mechanoreceptors, which is what your motor function, your sensory function. They travel on the fast lane up to the brain, whereas the pain fibers are the person going 20 miles under the speed limit, slow and steady wins the race. So if you can override your system, you won't feel the pain. That's why you rub your elbow. It's not because I gotta rub it. It's natural pain. This is evolution we're talking about. So you're trying to override your own system when you rub your elbow when you get in pain. That's what your body's trying to do. It's trying to get you out of pain and then try to get you into the second thing we want to talk about is acute versus chronic pain. Good versus bad inflammation. So I know that you, being a former athlete, Assad, you've dealt with countless pains that you've had.
I still that the chronic aspect is still haunting me.
That's what you led right into it. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of the chronic issues that you had, because you've taken your life from once, an athlete, you're on the path to being...
I saved myself a lot of extra pain by not pursuing football. I could only imagine what these dudes that are in for the NFL for decades, they probably have the worst stories. But so me just playing high school and stopping in college, it's crazy that I still have to deal with certain things whether it was basketball, tweaking an ankle or rotator cuff injury in football, tackling wrong and stuff like that. It's there's countless things that have happened. I feel like my whole body was affected. So
absolutely, I love. This is why I have this gentleman on, ladies and gentlemen. Assad just segues perfectly into it. He talked about ankle and shoulder, two of the common injuries I see all the time.
Yeah.
People roll an ankle and they don't realize that if they roll the ankle and it doesn't heal properly, and it's just going to have this chronic stress because you're going to stress it out. Let's say you're walking in the airport.
You want to get back you want to go back to playing as soon as possible.
Absolutely, you want to get back to play. Even if you after past your playing days and you're running down, to catch a flight, or you're getting back into your fitness regimen, or you're running after your kids, you may tweak your ankle again. I'm not saying you're going to injure it. When I say tweak it doesn't mean injury. I'm saying that you're causing some irritation, inflammation to the area. That's what Assad was touching base on: chronic inflammation, chronic pain. Inflammation in short term is very good, guys. Let's clear the air about inflammation. It gets a bad rap.
That's how your body heals.
Thank you. It's absolutely how your body heals. And so in the short term, absolutely great. In the long term is when you start to develop. Long-term inflammation is why you get the problems we have in our society. You get the breakdown of tissue, you get the degeneration. That's why you have people that have disc issues, they have the chronicity with their organ dysfunction. And again, let me preface this, guys, by saying it's not I'm not talking about pathologies. If you have a tumor or cancer, we're not leaving that. I'm talking about the degeneration of your organs. When I have people coming to me and they're saying that my stomach is, I'm taking antacids, popping them as Assad fairly put it, like candy. Because I can't function without this medication anymore because their body's degenerating, breaking down. So, we talked about good versus bad inflammation. So in the short term, inflammation is good, but you got to fix the problem,
Right.
or you're going to keep having that inflammation come back, and that's that chronic pain we talk about. So with chronic pain in this society, how does that lead to us? It leads us into the worst, as the FDA puts it, the worst epidemic in U.S. history, the opioid crisis.
Instead of going and seeing somebody like Dr. Sam, you know, doctors just throw pills at the problem and say like, you know, but like, you know, you want to the turnover rate is so much easier when you just say, oh, take some OxyContin and get out of my office, instead of really dealing with the problem, you know, the deep-seated problem.
The deep-seated problem. So I'm so glad you mentioned
tissue, like,
deep tissue.
No pun intended. Yeah. The deep tissue problem.
He said it best. He brought up an issue. He brought up an example, actually, I should say. Oxycodone. First question I get is, what are opioids? So a couple of opioids that you make here.
Wait, so how do you
Go ahead.
say? I feel like so many people different. Like OxyContin.
It's
Oxycodone.
It's
What's
oxycodone.
that?
It's oxycodone is like the terminology used.
Yeah.
It's but people, the way it's written, OxyContin is like, you know,
Cotton, like the
cotton, like cotton, like
Isn't
the
it
material.
but where's content? Where's
Yeah.
Oxycontin? Is that like a brand?
Yeah, it's basically
Oxycontin?
it's a street name for it. It's oxycodone. It's the street name. Oxycontin is the brand. Is a street name for the actual drug. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many different oxys, and there are so many different. So codeine, Vicodin, morphine, oxycodone, Percocet,
Loratab.
Fentanyl.
Are you like singing a rap song right now?
I am. I'm just rapping through it, you know. But these are a bunch of like, if any of these words are ringing a bell, you're like, what did I have that in my medicine cabinet? Yes, you do have opioids in your house. You have drugs in your house. How dare you? No. But these are legal drugs because and there's nothing wrong with, you know.
And they're sensationalized by the entertainment industry. Like we just made a joke about it, but you know, it's made cool by the movies and the rap songs and then that's also what probably, you know.
Absolutely. It leads into it becomes in the 1950s and 1940s, even if you go back in the 1920s, when the Hollywood or society glamorizes the cigarettes, tobacco industry. Tobacco industry was booming. So when you glamorize a certain drug, you're like, oh yeah, he's on the oxy, he's on this. You are kind of basically feeding the soil. You were nourishing the soil for the epidemic to grow because people are like, oh, everyone's doing it. It doesn't matter. I'm no different. Well, unfortunately, it's something that yes, a lot of people are doing it. And just to go over some stats with you guys, because I'm a big guy. I love those wow factors. Sometimes it takes those wow things to stop you in your tracks.
Drop those facts.
Drop your facts. Drop some facts.
Come on.
You know, and I said it before. According to the FDA, the opioid abuse is the worst drug epidemic in U.S. history. By the way, when I'm citing these, I will share with you. This isn't one researcher. This isn't one, editor at the Washington Post talking about this. These are organizations, large organizations like the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, that stated that opioids cost the United States of America $56 billion a year. That's billion with a B. So you're talking about the opioid epidemic costing our economy, which we know we're in an economic crisis, $56 billion a year. And it's crazy to think that, okay, well, we are a society maybe having more, using the pharmaceutical drugs to be healthier. But when you have these companies that use falsified records or falsified research to get their products on the market for profiteering purposes, you have companies like GlaxoSmithKline, GSK, the top manufacturer of pharmaceuticals, that from 1991 to 2015 paid $7.9 billion in fines. That's billion with a B, in fines over a 24-year period. You are paying $8 billion in fines. How much money are you making off these drugs? And
they're just shrugging it off, like, oh, okay, we'll pay the fine.
We'll pay the fine. And listen, I would not be sitting here with the fitness guru Assad talking to you guys about this if it wasn't a problem. Listen, if we were the healthiest country in the world, but when the World Health Organization ranks the United States, the World Health Organization, the WHO? I didn't catch it. See, that's he's the funny one. But the WHO The World Health Organization ranks us as 27th in health. I mean, listen.
That's not good.
No.
At all.
Like, you gotta basically throw what you think you know out the door because it's not working. If you're 27th in health and you're spending this much money on, especially advancements in healthcare, and then you have stuff like in 2012, 793 million doses, 793 million doses of opioids were prescribed in one state, in the state of Ohio. This is according to the
they're
state.
worse, right?
Yeah, they have the highest rate of overdose deaths.
Yeah.
So in 2012, when you have 793 million doses passed out, they just prescribed, that's enough to give every man, woman, and child in the state of Ohio 68 pills.
Jesus.
I mean, that's an alarming fact. And then when you have a state that correspondingly leads the country in overdose deaths, and this is according to the Ohio Board of Pharmacy, you can understand this is something not to be taken lightly.
All right.
So, Assad, the United States makes up 5% of the world's population.
Mm-hmm.
How much of the world's prescription medication do you think we consume? 10%, 20%?
Definitely a lot more.
25? See, he's a smart man, guy, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe I'll try again. The same 60 as last time.
60 is a good number. It's 50%, so you're not shot. Nice job.
50%.
I like it. We consume, we're 5% of the world population, we consume 50% of the prescription drug. And here's the kicker.
At all.
We consume 80% of the world's painkillers.
No.
Guys, it's not working. We're taking pain pills like they're candy, as Assad put it so.
Don't eat candy.
Don't
They're both bad.
Yeah. But this is according to Global Research Magazine. So what is a person to do? You sit back and go, what am I supposed to do? When I have all these stats being thrown at me, well, the biggest thing you want to break it down to is we have a structure here in the United States that's healthcare in this country, it should be called sick care because we based on symptoms. I mean, you were an athlete, Assad, or if you had injuries, and then a lot of times, if a trainer or a physician saw you and they would ask you about your symptomatology, usually it was a response to your symptoms and you were given medication. Now, I'm sure you had doctors that were trying to dive deeper to get to your root cause, but most of the time people were...
Well, I mean, luckily I didn't have to have many second opinions and stuff. Like, really, it was just, like, I've been pretty healthy so far. So, I'm not the best, like, poster child of somebody like telling me one thing and another doctor telling me one thing, or like one doctor being bad, one doctor being good. Like especially my dad being a surgeon, like he was pretty on point most of the time.
I think guys like Assad are fortunate,
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, he's not one of the good doctors. He doesn't throw pills at the problem. Like he'll try to dive deep and see what the root cause is.
So he's not quick to pull that trigger of surgery or drugs. He's going to basically try to look for lifestyle. I tell patients all the time, pain didn't bring you in my office, lifestyle did.
Right.
It's the lifestyle, what you're doing to yourself. So, let's piggyback off that. Symptoms versus system. People in our society go to a physician. I don't care what initials you put behind your name. MD, DO, DC, physical therapist. A lot of patients are being seen and being treated for their symptoms, where if they were just focusing on the system, it's like looking for the needle in the haystack, but you're looking in the wrong haystack.
Right.
It's hard enough to find the needle in the haystack. Now, if you're looking in the wrong haystack, then you're really screwing yourself. So what we want to do is we want to dive deeper. And I always say, it's like peeling the layers of an onion. You've got to get to the root cause.
Right.
And identifying the root cause is number one. You got to identify the root cause. So Assad mentioned it before. He's got a rotator cuff issue, and he goes to a doctor. A physician that truly understands biomechanics is going to not only look at Assad's shoulder, because Assad is not just a shoulder. He is a human, and he's going to have a lot of biomechanics. Right. They'll watch the way he raises his arm. They'll watch the way he basically, if he was a pitcher, threw a pitch, or a quarterback, or how he would extend his arm.
Right.
Being an athlete. What position did you play in football?
Linebacker.
You were a linebacker, so you were extending your arm to try to make a tackle. Is there any impingement?
Don't arm tackle for all of you.
No.
Just don't.
So
use your shoulder.
Use
your body.
And these are the things that he learned.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing, guys. I mean, you got to learn these things. You have to know your patient.
Right.
Know your patient. I'm not going to talk to a 12-year-old female who is in, learning the piano about how to arm tackle,
Right.
Okay, don't raise your arm when you're
Yeah.
tackling someone. She's going to look at me like I'm crazy. You don't put a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
You create a plan for each person, because every person
It's just like personal training.
personalized, yeah. So piggybacking off of that, not only identifying the root cause when you're trying to treat someone and trying to get them out of pain, but number two, whenever you have pain or any discomfort in the body, whether it's acute or chronic, the number one thing your body does, it's a stress. And we talked about in the first podcast, stresses on the body, structural or chemical stresses on the body. You want to feed the body good nutrition, because the nutritional demands go up. A lot of people don't realize when you're under stress, whether it's a shoulder impingement, it's something in the stomach or anything like that, or the headaches you're having, your body's first line of defense is give me more of the good nutrients. Mm-hmm. I know you know this, Assad, especially being in your line of work, how important it is, the nutrients you put in your body and the results you get.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just external, it's internal.
Right.
There's a lot of guys in Assad's field, who
Ferrari bodies and the engine sucks.
There you go.
Yeah.
They have a great. They're a vase. They're a human vase. The shell looks good, but the's nothing on the inside. Or they're rotting on the inside, like he said.
Right.
A Ferrari body with a Pinto engine.
Right.
It's chugging along, and these are the people that you see that have complications later on in life. They look good in their 20s and 30s, and then they're paying for it in their 40s and 50s because they weren't doing it the right way.
Right.
So kudos to guys like you, Assad, who do it the right way. You actually practice what you preach.
Yes.
So that's a huge thing, guys. So good nutrition. Now, what nutrition is good? Again, you don't put a square peg in a round hole. Get together with a nutritionist, someone that can actually break down. I do nutrition in my office where I actually look at what your body's digesting, absorbing, and utilizing. So if I tell you to eat an avocado, that's great fats. But if you can't digest fats, that's just leading you up a creek without a paddle.
Okay.
So you want to be able to identify what the person's actually being able to digest, and then put them on a plan accordingly to get the proper nutrients. So that's number two. So identifying the root cause, number one, feeding the body good nutrition, number two. Number three, and this is Assad's specialty, and I want him to talk about this, movement in the right way, and how important it is when you exercise, form over function. Tell us a little bit, Assad, in your line of work with your clients.
Okay, so most of the time I'll say straight up, I don't care about the weight that you're doing. As long as you're doing it right, in the right form, you could do half of your max and still get a great workout. So form is definitely the function, it doesn't happen without the form. You need to, if you're doing a row, you need to have your chest out, your back arched. And that's not even getting into the injuries, and it's you can injure yourself if you don't do it right, but if you want a great workout and if you want results, you're gonna want to do it right first. At the 30% of your max, you can still get a great workout, as long as you're doing it right. Because I'd rather you do 6 great perfect reps than 20 terrible reps.
Absolutely.
So,
I think that, and this is the problem I run into, guys, and unfortunately, just like there are good doctors and bad doctors out there are good nutritionists and ones that are, I don't want to say bad nutritionists, just people that don't pay much attention to it, and just like there are trainers that will tell you to do a certain exercise to push yourself without actually emphasizing form and function and posture, like guys like Assad. So really do your due diligence research. If someone suggests a trainer, and I actually advocate a lot of my patients and clients to go to a trainer, because someone who, this is their livelihood. They're being paid to understand the human body, but like any profession, there's ones that really, they're subpar. So you want to really do your due diligence. Find someone like Assad. Again,
cookie cutter programs, because you even said it, it parallels my field. I can't give the same program to a 18-year-old, strapping male versus a 50-year-old woman, who's just trying to stay healthy.
There you go.
As opposed to a guy who's trying to be an NPC figure or a physique.
Absolutely. So identification of goals. What your client's goals are.
I can't say the same nutrition. I can't say the same workout to these people.
And I'll tell you what, guys. This guy really does practice what he preaches. I've been working out for several. What is it now? Going on almost 20 years now. I've been working out, and I know what I'm doing in a gym. But when you have someone who's an expert like Assad, and I've gone through his workouts with him, and he's tweaked the program and done different things, I'll tell you what, you get a little bit sore, but you get a lot of good feelings. I mean, I felt like energized beyond. I mean, I started feeling great. I actually helped me
That's the form.
the next few days. And he actually found, and I'm a biomechanics, for all intents and purposes, my expertise is biomechanics. And he was watching me, and it was great to have someone else's eyes on me saying, okay, hey, you want to lift your chest, do this. And I always thought I was doing it with proper form. It's always
Once you
good to
have
have
somebody
second
watching
pair.
or filming yourself, you're never going to know.
Absolutely. And last but not least, guys, and we're talking about system treatment, is we want to talk about preventative care. You want to not be reactive with your care. We are a reactive society. I have a cold, I go to the doctor. I got a flat tire, I go to the mechanic.
Right.
I have a fill in the blank, I go here. We are a reactive society. Being preventative is going to prolong not only your life.
Prevention over damage control is, I preach that like every day.
Yeah, and it's the quality of life. I'm sorry, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys, but when you have people that are geriatric patients that get into their 60s, 70s, 80-year-old, and they are clinging on to life, and then you have others in their same age range that are running marathon and zest for life, and they're embracing it, and you would never know their age if they didn't share that with you. There is a monumental difference between an 83-year-old who is actually taking care of themselves and know that health, and someone who basically played the reaction game their entire life. Don't be the latter, be the former, take control. A great way to do that. The former.
There you
Yeah, you really want, and another great way to do that is through, and my specialty is chiropractic care. I was introduced to chiropractic care. I was in the reactive model. I was introduced to chiropractic care. I've fallen in love with this profession because it allows me to not only stay out of pain, if I'm ever in pain, get out of pain, but I stay out of pain, prevent injuries, and I'm improving function.
Awesome.
And it's allowing me to get better and better each and every day, and it's awakening your nervous system. Your nervous system, we go back to that, it controls everything in the body. So if I'm doing something wrong, my body will give me that red light going off. Hey, a little bit of pain, go back to pain. Hey, something's wrong, you may want to fix your form. Hey, something's wrong, you may want to stop stressing out over this. Hey, something's wrong, you may want to not eat like this because I'm going to start telling you it's wrong. So the more you know your body, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely.
So I thank you guys for listening. We'll sum it up very simply for you guys. Number one, know the root cause. I don't care if it's an aching shoulder, migraine headaches, indigestion, the list goes on and on. Get together with an expert, a healthcare practitioner who can help you identify what the root cause is, start treating that. Number two, feed your body good nutrition. What's good nutrition? I don't care if you're paleo, you're keto, you're vegan, you can go on the list. Every one of those diets talks about whole foods. Eat whole foods. If it came from a plant, don't,
if we get a check from Amazon.
If it was processed, if it was processed in a plant, don't eat it. If it came from a plant, actual plant, eat it. But if it's processed in a plant, don't eat it. Number three, movement in the right way. Get together, find yourself a good trainer like Assad, who can actually show you how to exercise for your body type in the right way to prevent injury and to remain healthy. Assad, go ahead and share with us one more time what your Instagram name is.
Assad Shah, ASSADSHAL.
Perfect. And last but not least, guys, preventative care. Don't be reactive, be preventative. Get ahead of the curve. Even if you're feeling good, again, pain's the last thing to show up and the first thing to go away. Stay ahead of the curve, and you will prolong not only the years on your life, but the quality of your life. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for listening. Hey, this is Well Scripted with Dr. Sam, my great guest, Assad. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
And we look forward to hearing them. Listen, more and more health topics. We'll be on the lookout. What would you like to hear about in the next session?
Leave it in the comments below.
There you go.
Boom. 29, 29.